Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 169 of Kouryer podcast. Our today's guest is Miss Tang. She's a freelance concept artist based in Manchester, United Kingdom. Now, with that quick introduction out of the way, let me just quickly mention that in the captions, you can check your Instagram and our station profiles as well. And I highly recommend following her Instagram account because she's currently working on a personal IP project, which we're going to talk about it in the podcast as well. And there are super interesting details, which we're going to discuss and explore and dwell in more and more as we go deeper into the podcast. And well, with that quick little introduction out of the way, let me just quickly jump into the first signature question I ask everyone at the beginning, which is give us a little introduction on how we got into the world of visual arts and design. So basically, what was the moment that made you realize, oh, I want to become an artist,
So for me, I think I started drawing from quite a young age. When I was very young, I was very into Pokemon, and one of my best friends, they drew a lot of Pokemon fan art, and we were probably 10 at the time or something. And then I think from that I kind of started drawing. But obviously that was kind of more casual back then. It was just more for fun. And then I guess from there I drew a lot for fun, and then probably when I was about 14 maybe, I started taking it a lot more seriously because I found out that kind of more about concept art. I think one of the main things that I saw at the time that kind of sparked that was so I'm a really big fan of Lord of the Rings, and my sister gave me an art book from Lord of the Rings. It was just Alan Lee's drawings. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he did a lot of pencil drawing, like concept art for Lord of the Rings, and it was all in pencil, which obviously is quite unusual nowadays. But I found that very inspiring at the time. And back then, I had done a little bit of digital art, but I think I didn't really know what I was doing. And actually I found that at the time I just really enjoyed doing more traditional stuff, kind of more getting into drawing rather than concept art necessarily. It was a lot of just pencil and ink drawings from observation and that kind of thing, and occasionally just some kind of fantastical stuff for fun. And then I guess, let me think. So I was mostly doing that kind of stuff, and then a bit of digital stuff as I got older, kind of more into digital painting, just from seeing stuff online. And then also I think, back then when I was around 14, 15, I also discovered this magazine Imagine FX, and then I had one or two copies of it that I was kind of poring over. I would just read it over and over again, oh my god, I wish I could be these amazing artists in here. And and then I guess from there, I went to university. I went to University of Hertfordshire, and I was studying I guess as an umbrella term, digital animation, but it kind of covered a lot of different things. They taught us how to use 3D programs, so we covered Maya and ZBrush and that kind of thing. And also a lot of they also covered concept art and that kind of stuff as well, digital painting. I think it was while I was at uni that I was really trying to kind of put together my portfolio. And luckily, I think it was when I was in my second year of uni that I managed to get my first industry job, which was an internship at Opus Arts. So I started working part-time for them, I think, because obviously I still had my studies to do. So I was doing some work part-time for them, and then when it was summertime, then I had I believe 3.5 month period where I was working for them full-time. And I continued doing part-time during my final year as well. I guess that's kind of the beginning for me.
All right, awesome. And Well, here's the thing. Of course, we now talked about, how you got started, but now I was just wondering, in the introduction, I mentioned that, you're working as a freelance concept artist, but I was wondering, what is your main branch of design of concept art you're focusing on now? And tell us about your experience from the start of the journey you've been on until now. Like, I mean, are you going for prop concept art or concept art for props and assets, or you're going for environments? Because I see kind of like both of them, and like with a strong hint of like world building in your stuff, which of course I'm going to talk a lot about, your world building stuff because your designs are really cool, like honestly.
Thank you.
And but yeah, first explain us that, and we'll geek out about your stuff later. All right.
So I would say that I am probably most passionate about designing props, and especially in a kind of more fantasy-based setting. And I guess in the world that I'm building, I really like to draw from my personal background of or like kind of my Chinese cultural background. Although I'm from the UK, my family being Chinese, it had a very strong impact on my life and my values and the way I see things, and I really like to express that in my work. So sorry, I went a bit off topic there, but so I'd say that I am interested in environments as well. So I guess it's kind of like props and environments. But I guess the way I see environments is almost like a really big prop in a way. Because a lot of the design thinking process of when you're creating a prop applies to an environment. And of course, there's other things, like composition and lighting and all of that. But I think that all comes into design anyway. And I'd say that actually it's still fairly recent from when I got into props, because I think for quite a long time, I thought of myself as a kind of like environment painting kind of person. And I guess that's just like part of what it is to be an artist. Like you're always kind of like remolding your own art and rethinking about what you like. And I think it was when I started using a more heavy 3D workflow and started kind of diving deeper into my environments that I realized how much detail you can go into for just like objects, whether they're small or big. And I think that's when I started becoming more enthusiastic about, designing props.
And well, speaking of like, designing props and stuff, my next question kind of ties into that as well, which is, how does your design process usually go anytime you want to start working on a new piece or a project, or like, basically your next new work, what is a structure of your pipeline usually look like?
So I would say that my workflow is kind of always changing, but I guess in terms of how I approach my work generally, so I think a lot of people, when they design stuff, they normally might sketch out a lot of iterations and that kind of thing. But actually, the way I see things is like I try to put all my energy into getting stuff right the first time, and then I kind of like make adjustments to that thing to fit like the parameters of whatever it needs to be. Because I think that often when you iterate too much, it's almost, you might iterate needlessly, I think. And I mean, it's like, it really depends on the person. I think this is just maybe the way that I think. But then in terms of actually creating it, so let me think. So it really depends on what the prop is, but I guess it will either go from kind of more simple blockout to me taking it into other programs such as like ZBrush or 3D Coat and that kind of thing, and like adding more and more detail and more kind of like depending on what it is, maybe some small assets to populate whatever it is and that kind of thing. But then also I also kind of try to optimize the way I work by, you know, for like as an example, like if I have like if I need to use a plank of wood, for example, I've obviously used so many planks of wood in the past that I just kind of have a default one that I use. Like I kind of have my own like little kind of like kit bash thing that I use personally for my work. I obviously try to avoid making things too repetitive, but I think as a base thing to start building things together is very helpful. And then also I also try to kind of build things as if they will be able to work in real life. It obviously doesn't need to be 100% watertight, but I want to put it together in a way that suggests believability.
Yeah, definitely. Like, and I think functionality is like a great way to kind of implement that kind of believability in your designs as well. Like, which is of course, pretty evident, in your stuff as well, which, all right, now it's time to, geek about a little bit about the IP you've been developing. All right. So, so the name of them if I'm not mistaken, I checked on your art session. It's about like, Guion. Is that the correct pronunciation?
Yeah, so the name is kind of based on the like kind of Cantonese for giant, like Goyan. And yeah, the world is essentially just giants and humans living together in like a Chinese inspired setting. And I think my aim the very first time I did the project, because I think the first one I did, the Medicine for Giants one, I didn't see it going any further than that project. I think to be honest, like for me, that particular project was just to push myself a lot in terms of workflow and fidelity and that kind of thing. But then I think after that, the idea really grew on me, and I think I just kept having more ideas of like other things that might occur in that world, kind of thing. And I think, yeah, so one of my aims is that I think I want to show or depict a side of Chinese culture that maybe is not seen as much. Because I think that there is a lot of kind of, there's a lot of work out there which is kind of East Asian inspired, is Chinese inspired, and that kind of thing. But to me, this is not necessarily like criticizing the work. It's just like, to me, as someone with that background, it feels like it's a little bit surface level, and it doesn't really go deeper into what the culture might mean. And then I guess I want to just like show another side, essentially.
All right, and here's the thing, like by the way, you did one of the most smart, like your really big brain type of things that I've seen an artist do on ArtStation, which is like which kind of took me by surprise, which is like for anyone who's listening, if you go to our ArtStation link down below in the captions, like for example, go to the Breakfast for Giants post, all right? In the software use section, there's Blender, Photoshop, and very cleverly rice flour, hot oil, and citry egg as well, which I think that was like super clever, honestly, to add those to like as the ingredients of your work. And that was kind of cool. And yeah, and here's the thing, I was wondering, do you do all the textures in Blender as well?
Oh yeah, so I do a mix of things with the textures. So some of it is I use texture paint, which I usually just kind of automatically UV stuff in Blender, and then I go into the texture paint function. I take like a photo as a stencil, and I transfer it to the object essentially. And then I guess for some other things, I will just use a Megascan shader, and then for some other things, I will project a texture onto it, which usually works pretty well for kind of like more cylindrical objects and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and here's the thing, I've been going to more and more through your work, and I was just wondering, in the world building, of course, that you done throughout this whole project. Of course, I mean, I understand since it's like a personal work, maybe you don't want to share like to a certain extent about it. I get it, but if that's not the case and you can share with us more, I was just wondering, like, in the story that you're trying to say here, like that they're giants and the humans are like, living in harmony together. I was wondering, is there any villains or antagonists in the, like, that setting for them, or what's the story? I mean, of course, if you want to, like, share it.
Oh yeah, that's totally fine. I mean, to be honest, like I actually never really thought of the world as having any villains or antagonists or anything like that. It was really for me just like exploring. Well, I guess that I was approaching it from a design sense as well. That I just thought that it would be interesting to play with the scale of the humans and the giants. And really, for me, whenever I think of a new idea for it, like that actually doesn't really cross my mind at all. It's really just thinking like, oh, how can I take this thing that I find to be interesting and then see how, they would kind of fit together for this idea.
Yeah, I mean, that actually seemed to work out really fine, honestly. And if I'm not mistaken, for the lighting, you kind of did an HDRI, but just made the background kind of like, not being shown in the renders as well, right?
Yeah, so I'd say normally with my stuff, I use an HDRI, and I try to position it so, it kind of creates a bit of a rim light on the objects, and then I also usually have a sunlight as well, like one, and then maybe a second one that's a lot weaker just to like fill out any dark spots.
Yeah, and I was wondering, what are some of your favorites, like, fantasy settings, that you've really been enjoying, and is there any particular inspiration for your stuff in terms of like of course, different video games or like just different mediums and IPs that you've been getting inspired by?
So I'm not sure if the stuff that I really enjoy in terms of media, although I generally enjoy like more fantasy-based media, I can't tell to what extent it affects my work. But I say in terms of like stuff that I'm inspired by, I do like reading some fantasy books. I have been reading this one fantasy series for a really long time. I've just been stretching it out over a few years, really. It's by Robin Hobb. It's called Realm of the Elderlings. And I think I'm on the 9th book or something now. There's just like a lot of books in that series, which is really great. And then I guess in terms of like games and stuff that I'm inspired by, I think I'm a little bit behind when it comes to games. I'm normally years too late. Whatever is the hype thing in the moment, maybe 5 years later I'll be like, oh my god, this is a great game. I think a lot of the games that I played when I was younger, a lot of those seemed kind of still stick with me. I mean, I guess when I was younger, I wasn't necessarily playing games. To be honest, I was just like watching my sisters or my cousin play the game. But I really liked Morrowind, and just how kind of like I feel like out of all of the Elder Scrolls worlds, it has a lot of mysticism to it. I really liked how it had like the Mushroom City and like the floating jellyfish creatures and stuff like that. I really liked just like some of those like older point and click adventure games, like Monkey Island and Broken Sword and that kind of thing. I really liked there's a really old stealth game called Tenchu as well that I really liked when I was younger. Yeah, so I'm not sure how much that feeds into my work, but I guess that's just stuff that I really like.
I mean, honestly, I can see kind of Morrowind, inspiring into that kind of setting, and
I probably am. I think it was just that I was really I was honestly a child, and I was just like watching my sister play games, and I guess I just picked those up when I was older, and then by then those graphics are really old, Especially with Morrowind, like the combat is it's a great game, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, you just spam a button.
Yeah, exactly.
But when you're a kid, you don't care about that much. You're just having fun.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing that I'm kind of like sad about this upcoming generation is, of course, I don't want to sound like one of those people that are like our generation but better. This generation is that. It's the same like thing that keeps happening every generation. Like 50, 60 years ago, people were like, these kids are always behind this fucking television, and stuff like that. By the way, I'm not sponsored by anything. You can swear if you want as well, since I did it anyway. Yeah. And yeah, and years ago there was televisions, there was computers, there was then consoles. I mean, of course, consoles came along a little bit after televisions as well. Then mobile phones, then smartphones, now tablets, and now it's all just battle royals. It's all Fortnite and PUBG and Apex. And not that games are necessarily bad. I don't want to sound like like kind of like some narrow-minded boomer or something. But I think the true experience of like playing an RPG game is something that I think it's getting lost, basically single player games. Because I don't know, like, as you said, you're very much like really deep into video games that much, but like, like, listen, when I was like 10 or 12, I picked up Fallout New Vegas when I was a kid. Like, that's actually one of my favorite games of all time, Fallout New Vegas. And it's, aside from like being a tool that teaches you English a lot, it's also like something that, introduces you to the realm of fantasy and storytelling and writing and a lot of other mediums, like art and a bunch of other stuff. And when you play an actually well-written game, you have no idea how much fun an experience is for someone who's been new to this genre and is especially a child who's kind of getting new to all these dialogues and, interactions and factions. And it's just a magical like experience that I think is getting lost. Everything is now so fast. Everyone wants to rush of dopamine fast. Like they're kind of losing taste of, what's some of like, the joys of like, exploring, I don't know, for example, in a game or a medium. Like, especially reading books as well, I think, in my opinion. Here's the thing. Again, I don't want to sound like one of those people who are like, this technology is better or something, but I love videos, by the way. I'm like 99% of my education is from videos and YouTube and all that. I do a podcast, which is a video version and audio version. But the fact that when you're reading a book, your multiple senses are, at work. Your hands, the sense of touch, your imagination, mostly. That's one of the main reasons that I think that books will still have a future, regardless of like how much technology goes forward. Because the fact when the medium of books or basically written words is something that I don't think will be lost anytime soon, because it engages your imagination actively. Like, imagine, like, I don't know, when I was a kid, I used to love reading fantasy books, like Darren Shan books, like, Quests of Del Toro. I don't know if you've heard about those. But
I read some Darren Shan, yeah.
Oh yeah, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Here's the thing. I was so scared to ask my dad to buy them because my dad was kind of pretty strict, and I was like, no way, if he sees the cover of these books, he would let me buy them. So I would just borrow them secretly from my cousin. And yeah, true story. And the thing is, like, I hated school when I was a kid. It wasn't that I was a bad student. I just hated school, And I didn't read anything, I was just basically do my homeworks and do bare minimum to pass by, and I could go play. But when it came to, for example, reading like books for the first time, like I've never had like a book actually captivate me and read it. Like I would like read like a 320 page book like in 2-3 days because I just wanted to speed run it and see what's next. And because everything was every imagination, every event was taking place in my head. I was like, oh my God, that book is like a key to play that animation in my head. Like, that's actually a good way to describe it. And yeah, do you have something to add?
No, I was going to say, because I do think that, I get where you're coming from with like talking about games nowadays and that kind of thing. But I do think that maybe it's just like, it's so dependent on people's taste. And then I do think that it's that there are so many games nowadays that maybe you have to kind of hone in on, the kind of stuff that you really want to play. And I do also think that there are some games that kind of capture what you're talking about with books as well. like recently I've been playing Divinity Original Sin 2 for the first time. I know it's like 5 years old, but I think that it's really cool that in that game, but I don't know if you've ever played it before, but essentially in the game, like it obviously like plays as a normal RPG and you do fighting and that kind of stuff, but then like whenever you go into dialogue or like you're investigating something, then it feels almost like you're reading a book. Like there's a kind of narrator describing what's happening, and it feels very story based. And I think it's really nice that games are so flexible that you can create like such a there's so many different varying experiences you can get with a game. And I do really enjoy some games that are kind of more just like text based. Like I don't know if you've ever heard of the game Valhalla Cyberpunk Bartender Action. It's essentially just like it's essentially
No.
like it's a kind of like almost like a VN type of game. Really really awesome kind of like pixel art and set in a really cool world. And really the only gameplay in it is you're kind of just like mixing drinks for customers. Like you play as a bartender and you just like talk to the customers. But I think during that game it almost feels like you're reading a book, but there's like kind of some really awesome visuals and music to go with it. So yeah, I guess that's just like an example of why I think like, yeah, games are just like so flexible. And if you're more the kind of person who like, you love to read and that kind of thing, I think that's really great. Or you're more the kind of person you just want to fight and that kind of thing. It's also great.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, here's the thing. I haven't played Divinity Original Sin, but actually the name sounds super familiar. But I just remembered something else. Like, when I was like, again, 10, 11, I randomly found a compilation of Sega Genesis games on CD. It was like a Sega emulator for PC, and you could play like Sega games like from 20 years ago, like, on your PC. And you had like 800 something games. And I basically tried like majority of them. Of course, when you give a 10-year-old kid something like that, it's like getting high on crack for me at the time when I was a kid. And yeah, there was a game that I particularly found and I found recently, remember, called King's Bounty. And I think it's a franchise that's been going on, I think. I think the game was from 1992 or something. And the thing was, the graphic was super basic, it was flat. It was flat pixel art and it was an RPG, but they did an amazing job with their the technological challenges that was like available at the time when they were making the game. But here's the thing, it was mostly like text-based, the combat was role-playing game, but because of it's relied on words and text to convey the story, it still felt like a book,
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah. I almost think that maybe that's why a lot of people really love some of those older games, because they had those limitations. It ended up feeling more like a story. And I guess there were those there were also those games that were like completely text-based as well. But like there were just no graphics or anything. It was just text. Like I remember. I mean, obviously, like I didn't play it at the time it came out, but I remember because I'm a really huge Lord of the Rings fan, and I think that is like a Lord of the Rings text game where you just kind of I don't even remember what happens in it, but you can choose different things that you do, and to me, I actually still find that really awesome that you can just like play as a character and it almost feels like you're in a book, but you can like choose what you do.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the reasons that, Fallout New Vegas was really endearing to me was because it felt like, playing a good book, And because the story was honestly so rich. I mean, even for its time now, like just go read the plot and dialogues of like, for example, the Dead Money expansion. I'm still amazed. Like, yeah, actually, here's my critique for that expansion was not necessarily the writing. It was the gameplay kind of felt repetitive, but I actually enjoyed it because of the writing. That's kind of crazy, because usually enjoy a game for the gameplay mechanic and all of that, the fun stuff. But yeah, and the two other games you mentioned, point-and-click adventure games that I really like, I'm fondly remember. One of them is Machinarium from 2009. And the other one was, the Samorost games. They're both from like the same studio, Amnesia Games, something like that. Have you played them?
Oh, sorry, I didn't catch that. What was it called?
And one of them was Machinarium. Or
yeah,
I think,
and then the other one was
Samorost.
I think I've heard of Machinarium. I haven't heard of the other one.
Listen, you have to check both of them out, honestly. I think like based on the stuff I'm seeing from you, and I think and the stuff you said, I think you'll love them, honestly. You'll love the settings and just everything is about it. And here's what they take it a step further. They're completely visual games. There's close to zero texts, and the languages that they spoke is just made up languages, like like in Animal Crossing, which is like in Animal Crossing, they talk like that.
Yeah.
And it adds more mystery to it, and you actually enjoy it. The storytelling is based on like the little events that happen on the screen. That's like a step above. Actually, I think they kind of surpass the books in some sense. I think.
Yeah, that's really awesome because it is taking that medium and somehow making it story based, right? But they're managing to communicate without any kind of text or voice.
Yeah, definitely. And well, here's the thing. I tagged you in a story, I think, on Instagram where people could, ask questions, and someone pitched in a question that they wanted to ask you, and I'm gonna read their question. And all right. So Easy White asks, "What inspires you?" Simply put.
What inspires me? Oh wow, that's actually quite a difficult question. I think that I wouldn't say that I don't want to say that there is something very specific that inspires me. I think that inspiration can be drawn from so many things. I think that even because I guess like with my props, for example, all of the details I put in, I think that's a lot of those things are stuff which I see if I just, if I'm just out and about on a walk, maybe I will see something really small. Like it might just be like how two objects connect on the street or something. And then I will kind of just keep that in my head. Like I will keep it in mind for, the next time I'm solving a problem. I guess that's something very specific. But then like, I guess in a broader sense, other things that inspire me, I guess like we've been talking a lot about this kind of thing already, like in our conversation, about, like the books I read and, games that have, their stories have stayed with me like for years and years. And I'd say like I feel like the people I meet as well. I find my friends and my friends are very inspiring because I do think that people are kind of like you do get shaped by the people that you spend time with as well. And I do think that it's very inspiring to hear other people's backgrounds, which I'm guessing that that's also like maybe one of the reasons you do this podcast, right? You like to meet new people, you like to hear their background. Yeah, exactly. I really love to see new places. Obviously, like with the pandemic and stuff, it hasn't been easy to travel. I do think that because I guess like when I was younger and then I would visit my family in Hong Kong, I think that a lot of those experiences kind of stayed with me, like the places that we would go, very specific memories I have that I kind of I try to put all of those small memories and moments into my work. And maybe that's not something that anyone would specifically notice if they see my work, but I think that's something which gives me more satisfaction when I make my work. And I kind of hope that that I'm able to convey those feelings to them, because I do think that with the work that I make, I what I'm trying to convey is, it's obviously an idea that I'm trying to convey, but in a way, it's the bigger thing that I'm trying to convey is actually like maybe a feeling that I'm trying to encapsulate, like a memory I'm trying to encapsulate. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, you're right. I mean, we've been talking about your inspirations this whole podcast, basically. And I hope that answer kind of, suffices for the person who asked the question. And with that being said, tune in, everyone, to the next part of the podcast. We're going to take a quick break because Zoom just only allows us to just record 40 minutes at a time. So stay tuned. We'll be back soon. 3. All right, we're back with the rest of the questions and the podcast as well. And let's see what we have next. All right, now that's an interesting question, which is, who are some of your favorite artists and designers that have inspired you the most? And I understand that, artists are not good with names. They're good with pictures. They're visual people. But which names pop onto your mind right now?
Well, that is pretty difficult because I do feel like just throughout when I've been doing concept art, I've just been inspired by so many people, and I think the things that inspire me from other people's work has also changed quite a lot, like throughout my journey as well. I guess like just because of like me changing what I like to do and that kind of thing. But I'd say that when I was younger, and I first started out, as I previously mentioned, Alan Lee was a big one. But in terms of kind of, like maybe more like digital kind of stuff, I also used to. Well, I still really love Theo Prin's work. I think he has some really solid environment paintings and concepts, and I think when I look at his work now, still, I think it still feels really fresh. I think he hasn't posted for a very long time, but still, I think when I look at his work, I feel very inspired. I think, and because I think I found his work because one of the Imagine Effects magazines that I bought, it had like a tutorial from him. Like that was back when they still. I don't think they do CDs at the back of their magazine anymore, but it was back when they had tutorials on the CD, and I think at the time I thought that it was very interesting, his approach, where it kind of, from what I remember correctly, it kind of seemed a bit like he would put down kind of blocks of like brushstrokes and color, and then it was kind of like he would kind of slowly work at it to form the image. And I remember at the time I just found that very interesting. And I do think that the shapes and colors that he explores, I just really love that. I guess like nowadays, well, let me think. I do think that quite a big inspiration for me. I guess as I said previously, like a lot of my friends, they're artists as well, and I do think that like when you are friends with someone who is an artist, like I guess you kind of like find out a bit more about like who they are and like maybe how that like their personality or experiences has informed their work, which I think adds an extra layer of meaning when you look at their work. I do think that one inspiration for me is so a couple of years ago, I think now it is, one of my really good friends, he kind of ended up becoming my mentor. So his work is very different from mine. His name's Noax, but his work is very different from mine. He does very hard surface kind of, just very hard surface sci-fi kind of stuff. But I guess both of us do very heavy 3D, and that's something that brought me towards 3D. from kind of his guidance and stuff. But I think he's been a really big inspiration for me, especially just like the way that he approaches work, the way that his mindset is. Some other people I can think of, just like some of like my friends are like Jordan Tuffin. He does like a lot of like fantasy stuff as well, but it's very like he uses a lot of line art and more painterly kind of stuff. But I think he has a really solid understanding of design, and like just like putting together things in a very satisfying way, which I really appreciate. Yeah, I honestly I feel like I have so many kind of like people floating in my head, and it's hard to just say just like a few people, you know.
Yeah, I know, definitely. And like the point of this question is that, I don't let the guests know beforehand what the questions are, because if you knew this question was on the list, you would have probably done your research, And I don't want that, because here's the thing. The reason when you get put on the spot, your conscious mind doesn't come up with the answers, your subconscious does. And that's the real answers, in my opinion. And
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you know that's basically the philosophy behind my reasoning of that. And well, the next question is, all right, let's take a break from all this like technical artsy questions and stuff. I was wondering, aside from art, what other aspirations or ambitions you have in life aside from art? I mean, it could be anything, by the way, or it could be like, maybe climbing a mountain. It could be learning a new hobby. It could be, I don't know, it just could be anything random. Do you have any other stuff?
Actually, I think it's really cool that you asked that, because I do think that like obviously with artists, like we are so much more than our art, I believe, and like especially when you like the more people you talk to, it's really great hearing about what other stuff they like to do. Sorry, did you ask like what the aspirations I have?
Yeah, basically it could be ambitions, aspirations, like what else you want to do aside from art?
Okay. Wow. Okay. I feel like there's a lot of things that I enjoy doing that are not art. I wouldn't necessarily say that like those things those things are aspirations, but they're things that I enjoy doing. Like I'd say that I really love like cooking, for example, and I'm even into like fermenting food as well. I really like film photography, which is I think film photography is something which I've kind of like it's almost so slow. I almost don't, because I often, pretty much anytime I go outside, I bring my camera with me. But I don't always take a picture, or even if I do take a picture, it might literally just be one picture, and then I end up only literally using like one film roll for half a year or something. But I actually really enjoy that, because when I finally get it developed, then all of a sudden, like half a year after I've taken the picture, all of these memories come up. And then also like I guess with film, especially. Like to be honest, I feel like the camera I use, like it can be a bit janky sometimes, because it's a super old camera. It's a Zenith E. Sometimes stuff goes wrong when I'm like taking out the film and stuff. I like accidentally expose it to light, or like it's really easy to accidentally open the back and stuff. So, sometimes not all the photos will come out. Sometimes they might look really different to how I expected, and that kind of thing. And that's something that I really just enjoy. It's a very slower way of recording stuff. I think I really like kind of recording my life, but like not in the sense of like, oh, I want to like take loads of pictures and put them on my Instagram story, or that kind of thing. I really kind of just like recording it for myself, not showing it to anyone. Like for example, I think since 2014 maybe, I've kept this journal where for every day, because I think I just happened to pick a random notebook, and I think it has roughly 30 lines per page. So I just write one line for each day. And I think that, so I've managed to keep that up. And I guess it's 2022 now. So I guess I've managed to keep that up for like 6 years maybe, which I find really crazy because it's just like you just like kind of write down a line every day and you don't really think about it. So I feel like for me, maybe that's like a kind of very slow aspiration that I have, that I want to have a kind of like record of my life, and it doesn't have to be detailed or anything. I do feel like just having a small line about every day, it can. Sometimes I go back and read stuff that I wrote years ago, and I'm like, I actually would have no memory of that day if I didn't write anything down. And it's really great that because I wrote something down, that those memories can resurface for me. I can kind of enjoy that moment again. So that's almost kind of like a lifetime project, just like for myself. I also really like this. This is very similar to this, but I also do that thing where, you know, like you take a 1 second video every day as well, which is also kind of like a long-term project thing. It's really nice to see all those moments compiled together. Again, it's just for myself. I guess in terms of other aspirations, I don't feel like if I have any other aspirations that they're necessarily like huge or anything. They're really just for me. Like for example, like one thing I'm trying to do at the moment is so I've briefly talked about the fact that you know, like I come from a background like a Chinese cultural background from my family and stuff, but because I'm second generation, my Cantonese is not like amazing, I would say. So I feel like one thing that I've been working towards for a while is trying to get it to a better level. Like, you know, partly so that I can communicate better with my family, partly just like because I feel like it kind of just like brings together a part of myself that's really important to me. So, and I think I do just really like learning languages as well. Like, I think that's something that's really cool. It allows you to connect to other people in different ways because, you know, different languages operate differently. I think I heard. Okay, this is like going to be a really rubbish, like, this is going to be a really rubbish, like, retelling of this quote. It's something like, if you talk to someone in a language that they understand, they will hear it with their brain. If you talk to someone in their native language, they'll listen with their hearts. I think
that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I think that's yeah, I think that's just something that is really cool, and just like being able to, because I think there are a lot of cultural things as well that you don't perceive necessarily until you approach the language as well. I think that's just something really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And about like journaling and stuff like that, yeah, that's actually such an interesting point. I've been like taking candid photos of like random stuff of my life since I was like, 12 or 13 or something. And I still been going on at it. Like, here's the thing, it's kind of like I don't know, maybe an unpopular opinion, but I genuinely believe like candid random photos for me basically are 100 times more valuable and memorable than like, those kind of precisely clean setup photos, I don't know. It's just like, for example, I take random photos of everything. Like, for example, sometimes for example, my room is messy and I just want to take a picture, and I did that all over my bookshelves or I don't know, my kitchen or just anything, or the street I'm walking in. Yeah. And actually I'm not regretting it because I have like a huge, archive of photos that it's kind of like a system memory in a way, if you think about it, in a way. And, yeah, and I once tried to do this thing of like, taking a photo of myself like every day. And I did that for 300 for a year, complete year. But I got but here's the thing. The only reason I kept doing with it because I'm kind of one of those OCD type of guy. When they start something, they have to finish it. So basically, by day 80, I wanted to cancel it. And I was like, no, don't, not right now. Don't quit. You need to go for the next 200 or something days. And I did, and I stopped it, of course, as soon as I could. But yeah, there's something interesting. Like it's nice to pick a challenge for yourself like that and be consistent with it for a while. I think it kind of builds a little bit of mental toughness as well, in a sense. And yeah, especially about journaling as well. I haven't done journaling that much, but I've heard tremendous amounts of benefits from it. Like, just journaling, like letting your thoughts onto the paper, like it really helps, I guess. But maybe, I don't know, maybe I should try it. Like, I don't know, pretty soon, but I'm kind of lazy for that, just being honest with it. For now, but maybe in the future I'll probably think about it. And well, we've reached the final section. Yeah, sorry, you want to add something?
Oh no, sorry. I was just gonna say something about what you just said.
no, go on, please, do go on.
No, I was just gonna say, I guess I guess in response to the journaling thing, I guess I think that really just depends on what you want out of it, because I guess some people journal to let their thoughts out and to kind of self-reflect, whereas I guess the kind that I'm doing is literally just a record. And I also in response to your thoughts about how candid photos you like how it's kind of a more true representation of what's going on than a kind of photo that's set up. I totally agree with that. I mean, I think there is definitely a place for photos that are more set up. I think that can lead to really interesting stuff as well. And it allows you to people who are more into photography, it allows them to experiment and stuff, which I think is really cool. But it's true. I think because I think whenever I take photos, I actually try to take it as quickly as possible, because I think normally when I do take photos, I really love to take pictures of my friends, but obviously the moment someone realizes you're about to take a photo, then they kind of freeze up, right? So I just try to take it as quick as possible, which I think always leads to a much nicer photo.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, oh yeah, that's such a good point. Taking, if you want to surprise your friends or something, in a good way, not in a trying to prank them or something, take candid photos of them and then show them later. I mean, of course, then if they don't want it, yeah, sure, delete it. But honestly, yeah, candid photos turn out to be super cool. I mean, a lot of my friends, they tell me, or for example, my profile picture that I have, I had this friend that he always posted something random as his profile picture on social medias, but one day he posted a photo of himself, which turned out to be pretty nice. And I was and his lip was in this, is kind of picture was like this, and he was oh, I was cursing my friend that was taking a picture, because his friend took the picture of him pretty without him knowing, and candidly, and yeah, but the picture turned out good. But yeah, exactly. And well, we reached the final section and question of the podcast, which is called Final Words. And allow me to explain. Basically, imagine in a limited amount of time, you had the opportunity to say anything and leave any message or messages as yourself to anyone who might be listening to this podcast at any point in the future. It could be 10 years, it could be 20 years, it could be a week. No, not a week, actually, because right now is June 12th and this episode will be uploaded in a month probably. And yeah, you get the point. Yeah, basically any point in future. In that case, what would you have to say? It could be anything.
Oh no. wait, sorry. Sorry, I don't really understand. Do you mean is this just a message for anyone to hear
exactly.
at any time?
Exactly.
Okay. I think oh my gosh, please cut this out. I'm just I can't think of anything.
No, it's fine. Listen, distraction is super common and normal. You don't have to worry about anything. You just wait. This is an episode 169. You should check episode 68, 67, 66, all this episode. People freaked out over this question. Totally normal. No worry. It's a part of the tradition of the podcast. And yeah. Take your time as much as you want.
I think that I don't have any thoughts in my head. I just tried to start a sentence. Honestly, I feel like the only thing that is coming up in my head just sounds really cheesy. So I'm just like not even sure if I should say it or like how I should say it. But I feel like for some reason in my head what I want to say is like kind of about authenticity, about being authentic to yourself in your work, about being very honest with yourself in your work, about being very true to yourself, which I think that is something that, you know, all artists aim to do, or like they want to do, but I think it's so easy to be distracted by all of this noise, all of the noise that you hear from other people, you know, comparing yourself to other people, like all the stuff that you see online. And I think that, okay, well, I guess something that is really important to me is just that other people are, yeah, just authentic to themselves. Yeah.
That is actually such a perfect answer, because here's the thing. This and the artist question are two questions that I specifically don't want the artist to know beforehand, because they can prepare. And this was on, I'm going to be honest, that was like legit such a cool answer that you just gave. It took you a while, yes, sure, but
sorry about that.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Please don't say sorry. But the answer you came up was like something true from your heart, without you even knowing it. That's the point of this question. You know, it puts you on the spot, but something brews up in your head finally after a while, you know, and that is like the real essence that you truly believe in. And that's actually such a wonderful answer, because you kind of represent that sentiment with your works as well, that you've been staying true to your works and roots and just everything you like. And yeah, that was like actually a good answer. And well, thank you so much for coming by. Thank you for your time, by the way. It was such a lovely podcast, honestly. And
yeah, thank you for having me on the podcast.
My pleasure. Yeah. And where can people contact you if they had any questions? Is your Instagram okay?
Sorry. Oh, Instagram. Yeah, of course. Like pretty much anywhere where I post my work, you know, ArtStation, Instagram, Twitter, email, wherever. Yeah.
All right, awesome. I'll put your ArtStation and Instagram in the captions, as I said in the beginning, and that's about it. Again, thank you so much for coming by, and thank you to anyone who tuned in for this episode and listened and came along with us. I hope you enjoyed this episode as well. As always, if you have any suggestions or comments, put them down in the comments down below, and you can even send to me privately on my profile on Instagram as well. And that's about it. Take care, everyone, and have a good day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.